so many people who care. So the charge is for us to figure it out. The charge for me is to figure out how we can work together. I believe in our leadership. I believe in a plan that we have. And that I also believe that parent engagement is authentic. It's recursive. It's not something you do as a one-off. It's not driven by programs. It's driven by people. So I will continue to reach out to you so we can develop better trust, more opportunities, build the skills of our parents and our students, be proactive and deliberate, formulate partnerships that support student success. And I look forward to what that will become fall. So thank you so much for starting off at the crest of summer. We're thinking about fall. So today is the first of many opportunities. We need to come together across buildings, across differences, to figure out how we can do it. So this will be something we do. And whether we do it at the end of the year when everybody's kind of fried and ready to be done, or we do it when I say, I make up numbers sometimes, you guys, not all the time, but 96% of parent engagement is in the beginning of the year. Does that seem about right? So when people are excited, maybe that's when we do it, when everybody's ready to come, ready to learn. Back to school for students is back to school for parents. So how do we leverage that? How do we give learning opportunities? So today is a place marker. It's an opportunity for us to look across the room. We have every building represented here in this room.
That's great.
I'm excited about that.
Amen.
So, a couple of things. Your voice matters. Your passion matters. How we carve this matters. So we're going to give you so many opportunities to give feedback, and let's figure out what we do in the coming year. In your folders, you'll see some little Post-it notes. We're asking you to be reflective, and as thoughts occur to you, just jot them down. Because not everybody wants to fill out a survey, but of course, we have a survey. So when you're done, as you go through your training sessions, and before you leave, there's a big, giant board that says, stick it. Take your Post-it notes, stick it on there, give us some feedback and some of your thoughts. Your surveys are already in your folders, so I want to make sure that you leave some of those voices if you don't have time today to fill out your survey. And I'll send you a link in your reminder. I'm trying to be on time, guys. So, as I mentioned, I have a lot of faith in you all. We started off with parent leaders because I think you all are the movers and the shakers and the organizers and the connectors in our buildings. And I'm looking to you to help welcome families and create these spaces. And I believe that our leadership, building leadership, administration, teachers, all can work together to make that happen. It's the collectivity that will make it successful. But I'd also like this morning to take a moment and thank Ohio PTA, because they came in to give us this training and we appreciate them coming up the road. I hope today will fuel you, give you some new ideas about synergy and collectivity, connectivity, and provide new ideas as we prepare a little bit more for the fall. Now, I'd like to also turn the floor over to Dr. Dixon, who in my estimation is a savvy leader who continues to hear us, who continues to listen, and has to make some really tough decisions to keep this district moving forward. Dr. Dixon.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a Saturday morning. Scott was texting me like, Lisa, where are you? Lisa's where? And I'm like, around the corner. So thank you for being here. As Lisa stated, I'm excited about her position. When we started the strategic plan journey in my first year, and someone was in my office and said, you know what, Dr. Dixon, you just do whatever you want to do in this district. And I said, well, no, not really. My first year, we put a strategic plan together for that purpose, so that there was a plan to all of the work that I would be doing through the first 5 years in the district, hopefully. At that time, it was hopefully for 5 years. But part of that was strategic goal 3 when we talked about parent and community engagement. And the community stated clearly that we were not doing that well, and we recognized it. We didn't have anyone at the helm to say what parent engagement would look like. We were piecemealing, parent piece here, student piece here. We were all over the place. But in strategic goal 3, we stated that we had to find a way to strategically partner with our parents, partner with other entities outside of the district, and 3, be good partners. We were not good partners. And find ways to communicate with our parents. So part of that, in 2015, I put a position on my org chart for parenting community engagement. Didn't know who it was going to be, but put it on the org chart in anticipation of hiring that person. So in December, I hired a consultant and said, who can help us find out what we were doing wrong, how can we strengthen parent engagement, and Lisa Hunt was the person that I asked to lead that effort as a consultant. And we just recently have had interviews last week to hire a person permanently to lead that role. Of course, it will be Lisa Hunt leading that role. But again, we have dollars for professional development ongoing. We have to basically put our money where our mouth was. If we're going to lead parent engagement, we have to put some efforts and some dollars to make sure we're doing it well, doing it strategically. So we have that, and this is the first of many events to come. So I'm excited. I'm excited that we're finally going to get our parents and lead in PTA. I was telling one of the PTA leaders in the back, I was in Columbus City Schools for 9 years, and we had a very strong PTA in Columbus City Schools. And PTA was really the only venue that I knew that really engaged parents and had the synergy and energy around it. The PTA council was at the helm, and PTA were the leaders. And we're glad that PTA council, the organization has partnered with this event. So there is a way together that we can energize and come together around what parent engagement looks like. And you can tell us what we need. You can tell us, I sit and listen because I've had many meetings where people say, Lisa, you don't know how to communicate. You guys got to strengthen your communications with us. And we listen, and we want to do it well by everyone in the community. We want to make sure that we get this right. So I'm excited to be with you here this morning. I think we're here to 12 o'clock. Yes, we're here at 12 o'clock. I'm excited to be here with you this morning. I'm not going to talk and run. I will be in the sessions with you this morning, and hopefully helping lead these efforts with Lisa and with all of you about what parent engagement will look like for this district. So I'm excited, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm coming back. All right, so again, I'm always going to try to be respectful of your time. So a couple of things. What I didn't do was give everybody sort of a schedule of where you can go, what you can do, but there are people in the room who can do that. Sheldon Blake, Couture Simmons, somewhere, Malia Lewis, where are you? Yep. They can tell you where you're going because we didn't do a big old tour of the building. This is a great space, and we are spreading out just a little bit. So I'd like to welcome up our presenter. We're a little early. I don't know if she's mic'd and ready to go. But I'm a huge fan of PTA, and I'm a huge fan of what they do. So Lisa Mack, if you could come on up and join us. So a couple of things. So at 9 o'clock, which is in about 10 minutes, you'll have a little time to get some more coffee if anybody needs to. Lisa's going to start at 9. 9 o'clock we'll start in here. 10 o'clock begins our first breakout session. You can then go to, I bet you I gave it away. You can go into the next door room, which is called the SDC, Staff Development Center, for treasurer training. Both consecutive sessions for treasurer training stay in the SDC. At 10 o'clock, you can also go upstairs to leadership, which is the Sky Room. You'll see that it's at the top of the stairs. You take the ramp, that's the long way. Don't do that. And then at 11 o'clock, back down here is advocacy. Okay? So you get to move around a little bit. This first session is family engagement. I thought it was a really great one for everybody to have a lot of access and entry points in. We are not all PTA, but I do think there is some wonderful resources and support, i.e. the training they're bringing today that we could utilize, including the advocacy piece, which personally, as politics are dictating, we need to figure out how to support our public schools on a national level. So, advocacy is coming. So the last thing is, after you're done with your final session, we're going to have Heights Schools Foundation out here to give us opportunities to do your own fundraiser. You can create your own school-based fundraiser. They'll have some deeply discounted Tiger Nation gear. So that will be on your way out at 12 o'clock. I think she'll be here at 10 for those who are scurrying away and can't stay for the entire time. Is there any questions I can answer before we turn it over to Lisa Mack? Or does anybody need to take a quick break?
Want to tell people about them?
Yes, bathrooms are out to this back door. Thank you, Dallas. And right to your left, you can't miss them. It's like the old, it's like Fairfax and the other buildings. You can't miss them. But I would like to go ahead and formally introduce our presenters, and if nobody's going to. Yes, Miss Jane, I told them about the post-it. Jane Harrison reminded me. Yes, make sure you write down something and leave that. So Lisa Mack is our first presenter for Family Engagement, and she's the immediate past state president of Ohio PTA. She's earned Ohio PTA's Gold Key Leadership, Legislative Advocacy, and Family School Partnership Awards. She's also received the Ohio PTA Lifetime Membership Award and National PTA Lifetime Achievement Award. She was instrumental in developing and leading the Ohio PTA Mosaic Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and she's the winner of the 2013 National PTA Jan Hart Domin Diversity and Inclusion Award. Lisa is currently a member of the National PTA Diversity and Inclusion and Outreach Committee. Can we welcome Ms. Lisa Mack?
We're going to talk about the importance and benefits of parental engagement today. Promoting and supporting parent engagement in education has been a priority for PTA for over 120 years. We just celebrated our 120th anniversary in February. From implementing programs that create opportunities for educational learning for students to influencing national public policy. That's what we have been doing, and we've always been a voice for all children. Overall, the evidence from research is clear and consistent. Parent engagement is a key factor in children's achievement. In a study that was done that compiled over 50 different studies, there was positive and convincing evidence that there was a connection between family involvement and student success. And this holds true regardless of race, ethnicity, and the parent's level of education. And then another compilation of over 77 studies showed that the more highly involved a parent is in a child's education, the more likely and highly achieving the child would be compared to those with less involved children. And that's regardless of race and ethnicity, and that goes over the scope of grades, of test scores, as well as teacher feedback. So that's clear information. Although we have a lot of research, I told you about a compilation of 50 studies, one of 77, there's a lot of research about the correlation between parent involvement and child success. But what has not been researched so much is why parents become involved and how their involvement influences student learning. Kathleen Hoover Dempsey, who is a researcher in the area of family engagement, has determined that there are 3 key factors that motivate a parent to be involved. The first is that they believe that they are supposed to be involved. It's kind of saying that they understood the job description of a parent to be involved in their education. The second is that they're capable of making a contribution, that they believed that they would make a difference by being involved. And then the third was that they were actively invited by the teachers and actively invited by their children. Once some of you all who may have older students might realize is that in elementary school, your kids are always glad to have you there. But once they get older into middle school or high school, they become embarrassed that you're there. And so sometimes for a parent to know that their child is inviting them as well as the school will make a difference. Then they'll become more involved in the children's learning. They're still booting over there. So whether a parent is in the school regularly or just making sure that their child gets to school, research shows that the students will earn higher grades and test scores, that they'll be promoted past their classes and earn credits, that they'll attend school regularly, and that they'll have better social skills, improved behavior, and will adapt better to school, and that they'll go on to seek post-secondary opportunities. But there are barriers that family conditions can create for parent involvement, which must be addressed if we're going to talk about student success. So when parents and families support, encourage, and help their children in schoolwork in the home, encourage learning, for instance, when we model the value of learning, when we read to them, when we engage them in learning activities, when we play games that challenge them, for instance, Scrabble or chess or Monopoly, where they have to count the money and do processes, where they have to think about strategy, that encourages learning. And when we set high expectations, when we encourage them to work hard, when we discuss the possibilities of further education or possible careers, different colleges and things like that, that encourages setting high expectations. When I grew up in Indiana, I went to a school that was fairly affluent. We had classmates and peers that we always challenged each other, and we had a little chip on our shoulder, I think, because we looked at some other school districts that didn't have the same opportunities that we did, with our noses up in the air a little bit. Then we started mingling with other districts as we were in high school and doing programs sponsored by different colleges and different things, and we got to know the students. And we realized that they weren't lazy like we thought. It wasn't that they didn't care. It's that sometimes they didn't have the same support systems. A lot of times in their schools, they weren't encouraged by their counselors that they could go on and go to college. They were told you'll only go on to certain other careers, and so a lot of times it's setting the high expectations that makes the difference. It's not that the parents don't care. It's not that the students don't have the potential. It's that they don't have anybody who says that they can do it. And so we have to make sure that we do that as parents. And then also becoming involved in their learning at home and school. And what does that look like? It's staying in touch with their teachers and the staff so that you'll understand what is supposed to be happening at home to correlate with what is happening at school. It's rewarding them for their achievements. Hey, you did really well on that test. Let's go get some, I would say ice cream, but it's not healthy. Let's go get some carrots. It's exposing. Commercial break. Okay, so then at home we can support by exposing them to books, taking them to the library and exposing them to books, exposing them to music and to art, incorporating math into cooking, 2/3 cup, 3/4 cup, half teaspoon, and those kinds of things. Discussing the day at school. Those are ways that we can become involved. And the results when we do that is that we'll find that students will earn higher grades and test scores. They'll get better attendance. They'll want to go to school, so they'll have better attendance. They'll complete their homework, and again, they'll consider post-secondary opportunities. And that's not just a 4-year college. It could be a 2-year college. It could be trade. My husband and I, for a number of years, owned a staffing agency. If we could have found welders, we would still be in business now. So there are a lot of opportunities that are available for students. But there are certain truths about involvement. At the core, I have to believe that every parent wants to see their child succeed. Every parent has hopes and goals for their children. But involvement doesn't just happen for a lot. It has to be learned and encouraged. And so there's some truth about involvement that it differs based on abilities and resources. It varies depending on a person's comfort level. And there are many barriers that can be found in school practices, the attitudes and things. In my school district, I reside in a neighboring district. When my children range from 17 to 27. When my older children were in elementary school, I discovered that in one of the other elementary schools, you were looked down upon if you were not a stay-at-home mom. Because these moms would come, drop their kids off, go to the Parent Resource Center and stay there all day creating things for the school. They had their meetings during the day. And so if you were a working parent, you were looked down upon. So there are a number of cases where a working parent would, for instance, take a day off to help with the book fair or something like that, and then they would say, well, your services are not needed, causing frustration. But what they didn't understand is that some people don't have a choice to be a stay-at-home mom, and some people choose not to be because they know that they would go crazy. That's the reality of it. But that creates a barrier because if you're a working mom and you want to contribute somehow and not feeling welcome, then that's a problem. Diverse backgrounds have their own sets of norms. You'll find in a lot of Latino, Hispanic communities, the schools are government run, so there's no place for a parent to come in. It's disrespectful for a parent to come in and try to do something. Advocacy is foreign. In Asian countries, they leave it to the teachers to educate. And so those kinds of things, when we all come together, create their own set of circumstances. And now, we're in business. Okay. Oh my goodness. And now we're going to be sensitive. Okay. I'll put that down. Despite the years of research that supports the connection between family engagement and student success, there continue to be barriers. Different definitions of involvement. Sometimes parents have different definitions than teachers. And again, sometimes the parents. For some parents, just getting a child to school clothes is parental involvement. And then on the other hand, you have the helicopter parents who are there all of the time. Different definitions. Time and resources. Again, now, especially with the economy, more and more parents are having to work outside of the home. Parents are having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to get food on the table. And so the last thing they consider is coming to meetings or coming to activities. That's not the priority. Language barriers. In the state of Ohio, we have some schools that have over 100 different languages within one district. And so that creates a barrier for language. I was in a meeting with someone who works with the Education Service Center in the Stark County area with English learners. And she said that she ran into a family that didn't understand the robocall system. Do you guys have it here? So one time they used the robo system to let them know that there was no school because of snow. So then every time that the robocall came, she assumed it meant school was not happening, and so she didn't send her kids to school the next day that was associated with that. So sometimes we have to consider those kinds of language barriers. Different cultural expectations and beliefs. We talked about that a little bit, about parental involvement being considered disrespectful in some areas, and so we have to teach that. I know in the Columbus area, we have a very heavy Somalian population. In that population, you have to approach the man first before you can approach the woman, which is not similar to ours. Most of the time, I'm glad to see all you men here, but as you can see, the majority of parent involvement is usually female, and so they had to learn to go to the men to get permission to deal with the women. And so a lot of those things we have to consider as we look at the barriers that we deal with. The other thing is that different doesn't mean deficient. And so we have to make sure that we don't get that perception that just because someone approaches things differently or something is different, that it means that it's less than. That's not what it is. But one thing I always talk about is that it's up to us to do the research. It's not like we expect them to come to us, but as leaders and as parents, we have to look at the research to engage, to make sure that those who are feeling outside are included. A lot of times there's a perception that there's a power that the school has over us or whatever, and that's intimidating. And so we have to know that they may not make that initial contact with the school or the initial contact with our parent groups or whatever. We may have to make that because we're dealing with a trust level, and we have to establish that trust level. Some of the parents may have had a very negative experience as children, so they may not want to come in. They may not feel as though a school is a welcoming environment because of what they experienced, so you may not find them coming in. And they may be afraid of the school personnel. We're going to talk a little bit about the National Standards for Family-School Partnership. In 1997, Joyce Epstein, who is one of the matriarchs of parent engagement, identified 6 types of parental involvement, and PTA began to work with her, and they developed the National Standards for Parent-Family Involvement. This was a platform that talked about the importance of family working with schools. But then 10 years later, they started talking about how the parents, the schools, and the communities needed to work together, and it developed into the National Standards for Family-School Partnership. And we're going to just talk a little bit about each one of these standards and kind of what they would look like. And hopefully we'll have some time to kind of develop that as it relates to your schools and your districts here. But under Standard 1, families are active participants in the life in the school, and they feel welcomed, valued, and connected to what the students are learning in school. Again, this is where we build trust. So I'm just kind of give you some things to think about. How welcoming is your school environment? When you have a family come in, a brand new family, or even a family that might not be new, how are they greeted when they come in? Is your office staff friendly? Are there welcome signs? And if there are, do they reflect all the languages spoken in your building? What are the opportunities for volunteerism in your school? I was in a number of years ago, I was in a meeting, and as Lisa Hunt said, the large percentage of involvement happens at the beginning of the year. That's when you probably, your first meeting of the year is when you probably have the most parents there. And we were talking about how to engage and include everyone. And we had a parent who said, I got off work early so I could be here. I'm not going to be able to do this every month. I have to work. I can't be here, but I really want to help. And one of the other parents said, you know, one way that you could help possibly is to help on a cleanup crew. So it's like we're having an event at 7 p.m. and cleanup from that is 8:30 or whatever. Maybe you could come and help with that. And the parent was so excited because that's a way for her to be involved. Sometimes you have to create things, data entry at home or whatever, for those who can't be there. But make sure that whatever you're putting out, even your programs, are welcoming to anybody and includes ways for everybody to be involved. Create opportunities when you're doing your activities that are low cost or no cost at all for those who cannot afford to be a part of it. And even sometimes take your activities outside of your school building, especially if those are intimidated by being in the school building, then maybe take it to the library, take it to some place that is safe for others to attend. Standard 2 is communicating effectively. Regular, two-way, meaningful discussion is important. So things to consider. Do you communicate regularly? Is it informative? And is it accessible? What are some of the methods that are used? You know, throw out to me, but what are some of the methods that you all use to communicate with your families? I'm sorry. Remind that. Facebook, that's social media. Flyers. Email. We talked about the robocalls. Anything else?
And remind, if you don't have the app, it's a text. So
The text. But you need all of those. We have a lot of grandparents that are raising grandkids who don't want to deal with social media and all those kinds of things, so they still want the hard copy. But you have a lot of younger parents who don't want the paper. They want to go green. And so all the different means, every way that you can possibly communicate, use that. Find a way to communicate to those who don't attend meetings, to those who can't attend meetings. How can we do that? We don't want to share all the information with the 5 or 6 who are at our meeting when we've got hundreds of others that need to be engaged. So what are some ways that we can communicate with those who are able to attend? We talked about those ways. So is that using the district page and the school pages? Did I see a hand back there?
I was just saying what they're doing right here, videotaping.
Oh, videotaping,
That
good.
kind
yeah, I think like if we had like a parent workshop, if it could be recorded and videotaped and then put on a webinar, and we're actually
So use
make
methods
it,
that people
access
can
it later.
access later. Great. Okay.
We should also think about how we're using our personal networks within the school. Not everyone is friends with everyone, and sometimes the best way to convey something is to have it diffuse through. So knowing that that small group that shows up for the meeting also talks to more people and talks to more people.
So share with your network. That's a good point. Yeah.
I would say this is probably the taboo of them all, but a parent foot patrol, going into neighborhoods where we know parents are, knocking on doors and saying, good morning, We're looking forward to seeing your scholar.
Yeah.
Or making those personal connections. Now, I do know that home visits is the taboo, but it doesn't necessarily have to look like a home visit. It could look like more. When I moved to one of the streets that I live on, my second house in Cleveland Heights, there was actually families that came and welcomed me. From that point, I built relationships with those parents. I was already invested, but it increased my investment when I was not only welcomed to my new neighborhood in Cleveland Heights, but then I wanted to know what the parents did, what the school looked like. I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at the time. So I was heavily invested in what this neighborhood school would look like for my children. So again, I would say a parent foot patrol.
Okay. But you say use the personal touch.
I'm sorry.
Phone calls?
If you can get a list from community engagement from Lisa and from the district, or you can get it through a collection of names, but those parents might not all be able to attend. So if you can just get a complete list of parent phone numbers and call them and just say, hey, I'm with the PTA and I just wanted to connect with you and find out what's going on in your family. Is there anything you need? Is there anything that you're wondering about? Is there any way that we can help you?
Good. And that is overall, if you're able to do that personal touch, that's the most effective by far. By far. Okay, supporting student success. Families will need information, encouragement, and support. Under this, families and school staff continuously support student learning at home and at school, and they want to strengthen their knowledge of the skills to do so. So, do parents have an opportunity to learn how to work with their child? Again, some of that is not inborn. A lot of it has to be learned. So are we creating opportunities? This right here is great. You have forums like this to try to help and give information. Are there vehicles to support after-school learning? There are after-school programs, different things that are available. One thing that we can do is to create a checklist of things to say, for instance, at parent-teacher conferences. If someone's intimidated in going in, if we can provide as parent leaders a checklist of things you might want to say, then that gives them something to go in a little bit more confidently in those times. When you have your meetings, invite teachers and your professionals to come in and talk to them at meetings to kind of establish that relationship. Sometimes seeing them outside of the setting helps them to know that they're a little bit more accessible. Workshops, we talked about workshops, having workshops to talk about the different issues, to talk about study skills, to talk about testing, to talk about career planning, college planning. Speaking of for every child, and this is one thing, you are going to have an advocacy workshop, but this is one of the things that we really encourage. Advocacy is just generally giving a voice to someone who doesn't have a voice, and that's what PTA is all about, being a voice for children. And so we like to talk about empowering advocates to speak not only for their own children, but for all children. I know when I got involved, as I said, my oldest is 27. When I got involved in PTA when she was in kindergarten, it was just to see what was going on in the school, to hear from the principal, the teacher rep. And then I realized that my involvement was making a difference not only for my own daughters, but for all children in the school. And then as I continued to work on the state level and now the national level, making a difference for all children. And to make sure that all children are treated fairly in school. So, one of the questions, do you support leadership opportunities? I'd say yes, because you're all here and we're having this forum. do parents know how to connect in your local level, in your district level? Do they know who to contact for questions? Do they know where to go to get information? And that's a way that we can really connect with this standard, is to make sure that we're providing the resources so that they will know who to go to, what to do. To reach out to the underrepresented populations to ensure that there's access and equity in all things. To have ongoing trainings like this to continue to empower our parents. One way to do that is to create mentors. Some of the families that are more well-established can help those who are not so knowledgeable. I keep talking about my gap. 27, 25, 17. When my 17-year-old was in 5th grade, it came time to do forecasting for 6th grade. She was doing really well in all of her classes, pretty much had straight A's. And then when the forecasting sheet came out, her science teacher did not recommend her for honors science. And so I went to him, not challenging, but just kind of wanted to know what was your thinking in doing that. Because I had the experience from the older kids, I knew that with the path that was taken, if she did not take the honors science, that she would not be able to to take, for instance, AP Bio, just because of the track that was happening. And I knew that she had some career goals in science, and so I just said, to him, I need to know why you made this recommendation. He says, sometimes she daydreams and all. She is getting an A in my class, but I'm thinking, with her other load of classes and all this kind of thing. And I said, but my concern is if she doesn't take this class here, she won't be able to take AP Bio, and I just gave him my career path speech there. And he said, oh, I didn't think about that. Had I not known from my experience before, it could have altered her path. So now that she is about to take AP Bio as a senior, she may not have had that opportunity because of that choice back in 5th grade. And so that's why we need to have mentoring opportunities to try to pair people up so that they can know some of the direction that different things take. So just wanted to give that example there. The next is sharing power, and this is probably one of the hardest standards to attain. Because we want families and the school staff to be equal partners to make decisions that affect their children, whether it be policies, practices, programs, to together inform and influence. Families are assets, and parents are the experts on their children, and so they need to be included in that process. So that's working with your principals, identifying ways to support one or more of the goals of your plans, coming together with the teachers, the community for shared power, providing training so that we can support our children. And then the last standard is collaborating with the community. As I said, I'm a neighbor of Cleveland Heights, and so I understand you all probably are one of the most community-rich districts in Ohio with all of the collaborations that you do. So this is kind of like preaching to the choir. But we need the family, the schools, the community to all connect to expand opportunities, create community service, create civic participation. Can anybody tell me what all of your levels of community involvement would include?
I mean, like our various, well, we have a whole slew of nonprofits.
Nonprofits?
So we have Heights
Can you
Community
get
Congress, we have Future Heights, Reaching Heights, Lake Erie, Heights Arts.
Noble Neighbors,
Noble Neighbors,
the Gardens.
there's a gardening group. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't include even Open Doors Academy, Family Connections.
Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
School advocacy as well.
We've got faith-based
Yeah,
organizations,
churches.
businesses, churches, service clubs. We're rich in hospitals, in colleges. So all of those can come together to help us. When we're trying to do community service, now it's a requirement for most seniors to graduate. You can pull on your community partners for community service opportunities, for internship opportunities, for all of those kinds of things to help with the student success. Can someone give me the time?
9:28. At 9:28.
Okay. So what parents can do in the process, we know that we should be involved. And while the standards are a roadmap to student success, for engaging parents, there's some action steps that are essential for us as parents to make our children successful. Send their child ready to learn every day. Send them clothed and ready, de-stressed. Sometimes our kids can bring home situations to school. Try to send them as de-stressed. Is that even a word? De-stressed as possible. Become knowledgeable about how the school works, the laws. Be confident in their work and instill that confidence in them that they're able to do that work, and expect the best. We talked about high expectations. We should be our children's #1 cheerleaders and supporters. Communicate with your children. There's a study that asked a survey that asked 200 parents if they thought that they communicated well with their children. 64% said yes. But then they surveyed 200 teens and said, what do you think about it? And that number became 41%. And so a lot of times we think we're making connections and we actually are not. A lot of times we need to go more in depth with our conversation. How was your day at school? Fine. In a conversation. But we can generate other questions. What was your favorite thing that happened today? And try to extend it, make it a little deeper. When you're listening, stop everything and listen. Avoid jumping in, avoid 20 questions, avoid giving unsolicited opinions. That's where it hits me, because I've got a lot of opinions, and they're all like really good opinions. So, help with homework. We need to communicate the importance of doing homework and how important it is to a child's future, and help them understand their purpose. Homework is to help you finish what you're learning, is help to you support it, to supplement, and help them understand. Set a regular place and a regular time, a place away from distraction. Maybe have them come home, take a nap, and then they know that they need to study for a specific period of time. Once they've done the homework, ask to see it after it's been returned. It creates accountability, but it also helps you discuss and know kind of where there might be some areas where you can support or develop a relationship with the teacher, which segues into make sure that you stay in touch with the teacher. But make sure that you're not a stalker of the teacher. I was just listening to a show on the radio this week, I think, and they talked about, the subject was, when have you regretted giving someone your number or your email? And everybody, talks about all these stories where they have just, these people have turned into stalkers. We don't want to be that with our teachers, but we want to develop, again, meaningful two-way communication with our teachers. Understand testing, and I'm not going to get into that because I know that's a hotbed right there. But I will put in a shameless plug that we do have some excellent training to help you understand all of the testing that's being done, the third grade guarantee and all of those kinds of things. Excellent training and resources that we do have that we can share with you on that. Encourage your child to read. Again, model that at home, have books at home for them to read. And just let them know they can go places that they never could go physically through books and explore and all those kinds of things. And join the PTA because there are resources and all kinds of things through PTA collaborative efforts. Now I want to do an exercise. We have a few minutes here, if I can find it. And I want you guys to get into 6 groups. You can do a couple of tables at a time, I think. But we're going to go through, each one of you all is going to be given one of the standards and kind of like survey thing. I want you all to discuss the information on the survey, but then also how you can satisfy and meet the goals of these particular standards. Then we'll give you some note paper, and then we'll have a few minutes. We'll give you a few minutes to come up together as a group to do that, but then also we'll give you a few minutes to report out. So you'll be number 1.
I would love to, but I'd like to go to my own appointments and not necessarily be volunteering, so I can spend that time with my child, and then I'll go over to this. And kind
When I say Tyler, you say nation. Tyler, nation. We're going to hear one Craig.
Yes. Like 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Welcoming all families.
Yes. We have the goal welcoming all families into the school community. So we started off talking about goal 1. When I walk into the school, I feel the school is inviting and that this is a place where parents belong. We agreed that at the elementary school level, we're doing a pretty good job of this, but it's inconsistent at middle school on up. Even with basic things like what door do I enter? Things that we thought worked well, especially in the elementary schools, plants in the lobby, kids' books or toys that show that when someone comes in and is waiting, they are actually welcome. Having the furniture arranged in such a way that people don't feel like there's a huge barrier. We feel like in the last few years, especially at the elementary level, there's been a good emphasis on customer service with the front desk staff and recognizing that it's still inconsistent. Okay, so it's some progress, but not all the way there. And yeah, just generally, we can use more guidance at the beginning of the year, teaching parents, so what's the protocol, say if I need to drop something off to my kid in the middle of the day? Getting that kind of information so that it's not extra stress. Recognizing amongst the staff that the staff are there every day, the parents are not there every day. A parent might only have 1 or 2 times, or they need to drop in, but it would be helpful to know how to do that. So then we got into goals 2 and 3 about the school's policies and programs, reflecting, respecting, and valuing diversity, and students at the school being treated fairly no matter what their race or cultural background. We felt that sometimes districts can look at changing demographics, such as we have in Cleveland Heights over several decades, and make assumptions based on those demographics. And we talked about there have actually been some studies that while there may be some differences in how cultures treat, almost every culture and family is going to love and care for their children. And recognizing that that's a baseline that we should all recognize. And under basically no circumstances, start off judging a family or assuming that they're not caring for their children. And we saw some clear manifestations of how that could be improved. For instance, in the 8th grade, is it Monticello, or the 8th grade Monticello letter getting sent home, basically a lot of negative messaging to the students about how they have to improve this and that and the negative consequences, not sharing a positive vision for them And that kind of thing can also be reflected in the code of conduct, which is also phrased too negatively. So just in general, giving more of that positive vision and not assuming the worst. And then getting back to the door-to-door or curbside engagement, recognizing that we do have families that, parents and guardians are in crisis. And how can we support them, recognizing that they've got really pressing needs, and figuring out how to help them through that survival mode. And the investment model that Cleveland Municipal School District is working on in some areas, with someone like Elisa Hunt in every school, would be a great thing for getting those personal differences that, the individual attention. So that's what we get. Thanks.
Can I just add that we didn't feel like we do believe that not all children are treated fairly, or the same, equally based on race or culture, that some children are treated one way and others are treated another by staff.
If I can just jump in, well, I will whether I can or not. Customer service, we are not customers. We are not, education is not a commodity. We are building a community. We are not providing a product. I think we've got to be very, very careful with our language. Very, very careful, because customer service, well, I'll stop right there, but.
Okay.
That's a very good point.
But treating people, in any case, having a warm
Hospitality,
welcoming.
absolutely. But I just, that we have got to be incredibly careful about that language.
I was just given the bell, so if we can just quickly, 1-minute reports to try to get everybody out. Number 2, I'm sorry.
Okay, we had the communicating effectively split 5 through 10. We basically talked about the first one because there was a lot to say. That the schools keep all families informed about important issues and events. We talked about how the information's there and it's just not getting to all families all the time, including our families who don't have kids in our schools but need to hear what's going on. Ms. Benjamin talked about how, our elderly people in our community, our people who send parochial and private, they still need to know what's going on in our schools. And so we need to take that information that's there and somehow get it to them effectively, because we already are buying in. We're sending our kids to school there. We believe in it. But we need their support. We need them to vote for levies. We need them to come back to our schools if possible. So we need to spread the good word. And one of the things we talked about is our kids don't have a community service piece, and that we need to possibly come up with a way to do more of that, because getting our kids invested in their community and the community members seeing their kids invested in their community is so powerful. We also talked about multilingual communication and outreach, and how we might need to make more efforts to have multilingual newsletters, more access to that, and utilizing our kids as a communication from school to parent. So that's the bulk of what we talked about.
Thank you. Number 3? I don't think I did. Okay.
So we had supported student success, and we basically had a discussion about our experiences with our children in the district. And I'm a new parent here. I transferred from Warrensville, and one of the first questions is my child's teacher helped me well with learning about what my student is going through, and I was telling them how I'm physically there, but due to all these different facets they have, and I don't know what's going on. And they were telling me about the infinite canvas. Now, it's good for older parents that know about it, but what about the new people that don't know about it, and how do I interact? We need to, let parents know, not just, assume that everybody knows. You know what I mean?
And that's part of that mentoring thing.
Exactly, and I was about to say, and that has to do with the mentoring that you had talked about, mentoring new parents and stuff, because there's resources and tools that's available that I know nothing about. And I'm listening and I'm like, what? How do you get that? How do you get that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's a major part for student success, or we do,
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and another thing. One more thing. They said that, you know, like we recently became Tiger Nation, and that was a good thing for student success. So instead of us battling each other, we're now more camaraderie. We're one nation. You know what I mean? So we thought that was important for our student success.
Number 4.
We have speaking up for every child. We kind of just went through basically about communication and expectations. We just felt that if there was a community resource directory that is at every school, that would be, that it is on the website, it's not really accessible, it's not easily navigated. And we did talk about personal phone calls or text messages that have all of the information in it, so a parent can just go back to it, and, you know, if they do need that, and making sure that that's out several times a year. We talked, it was about the dress code, the behavior enforcement, etc. Just consistency in enforcement throughout all buildings. It's pretty uneven. We talked about the rights, your rights as a parent under federal and state laws. It can be a cumbersome process for people, you know, if you're not really, we have 2 teachers in our group, so they are aware of the process. Just making it more accessible, more consistent. And then the last one was, I feel empowered to advocate for my child's success. Not every parent has the time to be that persistent parent that's there, you know, talking to the teacher, being the stalker. So, you know, we need that process to be more accessible and equitable as well.
Thank you. Number 5.
Hi, we had the sharing power. The first question for us was, the school consulted with me and other families before making important decisions. We unanimously disagreed with that one. We feel like we're told sometimes after the fact. There's a lot of changes going on now that there's a joke on Facebook about MNN, the Mom News Network. We're kind of sharing it amongst ourselves. Who somebody hears something and spreads the word. It would be, so our suggestions were having meetings, more like an open meeting to discuss what's going on, upcoming changes, allowing parents to weigh in, and not on everything. We don't, that's what they get paid to do, so we're not trying to make every little decision, but there are some decisions that we wish we would be weighed in on. More opportunity for back and forth interaction. So more so, instead of just the like Board of Education meetings where 2 or 3 people talk, everybody may not want to talk and tell everybody, but more, we talk about maybe a quarterly parent engagement group where there are more listening sessions where parents can come in and in a larger scale, not just PTAs, but any parent, and just talk back and forth and feel like there's more. Because sometimes people don't know who to go to for certain things, or you go to somebody but you feel like your voice really wasn't heard. So that was a big thing that we talked about, and mostly just being able to get our voices heard in more of a back and forth instead of listening to the Board of Education telling us this and that, but interaction. And then the second question, the school provides opportunities for families to develop relationships and raise concerns with school leaders, public officials, businesses, and community leaders. We mostly agreed. We actually, it's funny because we went back into the directory. that might be helpful. But in the meantime, more word of mouth and trying to get word of mouth out of the kind of so-called PTA mom cliques and into everybody so that everybody knows. That kind of falls on all of us as a group, to me, more so than administration. They do things to let the information be known within reason. We have to do a better job of sharing it. I think the directory, having that outside of, like I said, the website, that would definitely be helpful.
I would also add, while they do a good job of letting us know what's available, how do you access, what questions should you be asking? That goes to the mentoring again. I might access some of this stuff sometimes the right question gets a better answer if you know what questions to ask. But if I'm not asking the questions I should be, and I've had that problem with my own child. I have children that go up and down the spectrum from gifted to IEP. Well, when I found myself with an IEP child, what questions should I have been asking? And as the years went on, I started asking those questions, but I sort of had to figure that out for myself. We need parent ambassadors, parent helpers that are saying, hey, here's something you could think about. What about this? That would be so powerful. So the mentoring piece is really powerful. I think we should have mentors, like you said. We need somebody in almost every school saying, hey, me right here, you got a question? Let me give you other ways of thinking about things. Let me give you a way to engage so that when you enter into these things or go to these people for help, you're making the most of your time.
Okay, I'm sorry, just one more, and
Okay,
we're done.
we had number 6, collaborating with community. We thought that there was a lot of overlap. We have obviously a number of community groups at the schools and throughout the community, but there's some overlap in competing for resources and to try to streamline better so that we aren't competing for resources and we're redistributing our volunteer efforts and our resources a little bit better. To have some sort of central hub for all events so that different partners throughout the community do know what we're doing and when, and so that we're not changing the schedule all the time and they have access to that so they don't set an important event, community event at a time where we might have school events. Encouraging outside groups, having tables at all of our events at the school, and to possibly collaborate or discuss among the schools which events we're going to do so that maybe we're not having the same event at every school and we can get more people to attend various events.
Collaboration. All right, we're way over time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.